You're tuned in to My 95.1 Sports Zone, the podcast for students by students. We're bringing you the latest highlights, hot takes, and behind-the-scenes stories from all things sports right here from the Killeen ISD Career Center. From Friday Night Lights to buzzer beaters and everything in between. If it's KISD Sports, we're talking about it. Let's dive in. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the My 95.1 Sports Zone podcast. Today's episode is a special one. We are sitting down with the man who has meant more than just wins and losses to the Shoemaker Grey Wolves. We are speaking with the leader, a mentor, and the builder of young men. A coach whose impact stretches far beyond the football field. Coach Foreman has been a steady presence on the sidelines and in the lives of his players, helping shape people into not just athletes, but people with character, discipline, and pride. As he prepares to close this chapter and step into a new journey, we take a moment to reflect on the memories, on the challenges, and on the legacy. This is the My 95.1 Special Edition podcast, a conversation with Coach Foreman.
First question, Coach Foreman. Looking back at your time at Shoemaker High School, what moment stands out as the most meaningful in your coaching career?
It's hard to just answer that with just one moment. I think just collectively, watching so many young people, get better in not only sports and academics, but just watching them grow in life. And, that's the biggest thing. And, I can tell you, when I got here, we weren't good at anything except, boys basketball as far as sports go. And then, yesterday, my last Shoemaker event will be, winning KISD relays for about the fifth or sixth straight time, and it came down to the mile relay, and we had two alternates on there and ran one of the fastest times in the state. So that was a great send-off. But, just watching so many young people get better over time and watching them accomplish their goals, watching them go on to college to play sports, watching them become, positive and outstanding citizens just in the community and society.
That's amazing, man. What impact did Shoemaker community, players, staff, and families have on you personally and professionally?
Made me better because, made me – I tell people this all the time. I never had a losing season until I got here, and made me kind of think outside the box and coach different ways, because when you're not winning, you got to really – sometimes when you are winning, you overlook the things that you're not doing correctly because you're winning. But when you're losing, you're looking at everything like, what can I do over here? What can I do over there? It's almost like, it's you really get – fine-tooth comb things and figure out what needs to be fixed. And so, but Shoemaker made me so much better as a coach, but as a person as well, because I grew and I learned to do things differently than what I was accustomed to. And for that, I will forever be grateful.
Going into talk about the season I believe you played Temple before you guys played Midway, correct?
Correct.
So coming off that type of first win in school history, if I'm not mistaken, and going into a Midway game, what was the type of mentality there?
So that was a huge win for us, and we put us at 5-0. But I do believe this, and I could tell at practice, kind of leading into the Midway game, is we weren't locked in as much. We were still celebrating the Temple win, and it was hard to get them refocused back for that next opponent, which was Midway, and that was that was as bad as we played all year, especially defensively. We just did not play good, because we hadn't been in a shootout like that in a long time. To give up 60 points, to them, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but we were celebrating the Temple win, and we weren't all the way locked in on Midway, and so that was a huge loss. But even still, we bounced back after that and won the next two games. But I'm where this team was in spring ball. We had a lot of injuries, but then as we got healthy and they kind of came together, like we didn't even get Jamon until he didn't scrimmage. He only played in the first game, so he really wasn't in shape. But to start off 7-1, second best start in school history. In 2020, we started off 7-0. But we just, those last two games were tough. But either way, I know your question was specifically about the Temple game and the Midway game. But, and I'm just proud of this group overall, because if 7-3 is a bad year at Shoemaker, then things have definitely changed from what they were when I got here.
What lessons did your players teach you during your time and that they would carry forward?
To listen, to them. I was probably pretty stubborn. Keep in mind, I got here, I was I was still in my 30s, and so now I'm pushing 50. And but you changed a little bit, and kids would come to me at the beginning, and I wasn't even trying to hear it, And now kids come to me, and just like my relays, yesterday, Coach, we want to do this, we want to do that, so I let them. And you learn. Now you can't listen to everybody, but the kids that have earned that trust and earned that, I do listen. I don't always agree with them, but sometimes I will allow them to take their own chances and their own risk, and I think that's important. But I've learned a lot more than that from them. But I would say the main thing is just to listen to your kids.
What made this new opportunity the right step for you in your journey?
You just kind of, a lot of people have asked me that question, like, man, why did you, choose there? Jasper's about 45 minutes north of where I'm from. It's right between my hometown and Nacogdoches, which I played football in college at Stephen F. Austin. And I played with guys from there, and I'm familiar with the town. But it's not so much really the town. You can just tell. I really knew when the season was over with, like, it's time to go. It just felt like, and I hate leaving, the student athletes. I mean, I'm going to always miss them. There's never going to be a good time to leave them. Your brother, is a sophomore, and that whole class. I'm leaving 5 Division I players, and I'm going to a place where there's no Division I players. Well, I don't know. I really don't know what they have. I know they have a junior it's been offered by McNeese. He's a linebacker, but it doesn't look the same, which is, that's fine. But it just felt like it was just time. It was time to pass a torch to somebody else. I believe that they will hire one of the coaches on our staff, and I think that would be the right thing to do because things will stay in place. What you saw yesterday, we won the freshman meet. We won the varsity meet. The JV kids competed. We normally, like at Temple, we win all 3 meets. Those things were not happening 9 years ago when I got here. They didn't even have 3 full teams. And so we have dominated sub-varsity and a lot of varsity teams around here for a lot of years. And I think, if they stay in-house, then that will continue. I don't really remember what the question was, but I can tell you this, that the plan that's been put in place for Shoemaker, high school and the middle schools works. And that's something that needs to be carried on, and I think that'll happen if they stay with one of the applicants. But why was the question? Why did I choose there? It's not that I was just going to go anywhere, but it made sense being closer to my hometown, family for my entire family, and it'll give my daughter and the rest of the kids an opportunity to be raised in more of a smaller environment. It's tough here because you have so many kids. I liked growing up in a small town. I like growing up where everybody knows everybody. When I met the kids the other day, I asked them, I said, how many people played on the same youth league team? And probably 80% of them raised their hand. If I did that here, it would be the opposite. It would be maybe 20%. And so those things matter because you can really start at an early age getting these kids prepared for high school sports, and you're going to get them all the way through. Whereas here, you're not going to get these kids all the way through. It's with the military, it's difficult.
Let's speak a little bit about that with regards to the military town and how many high schools there are. Is there any specific rivalry in this area that you are going to miss the most? Like, was it y'all playing Killeen? Was it you playing Harker Heights? Was it Ellison? Which rivalry do you think will you actually miss the most going off?
I'm going to miss beating Ellison every year. I'm going to miss that a lot. They could get with us in basketball. We were probably a little under 500 against them in basketball throughout the time, but we've dominated them in the rest of the sports. And I kind of created that as a rivalry when I got here because there wasn't a real rivalry that I could tell. Everybody was beating us, and they were the closest ones to us. So I told our kids, like, you're not wearing green in the facility. So I don't allow them to wear green in the field house. And I really tried to make it a big deal. And I think the kids bought into that. And that was like the first. Going for 2 against them 7 or 8 years ago, it was 28-27. We had just scored with about under a minute to go in the game, and we were sitting at 27 points. And I told our coach, I said, we're going for 2. We ran a little whip route to Monterey Ballin. He tap, caught it right there in the quarter of the end zone, and we beat them. And that was the first real step to get us over the hump, because that was also the first year we made the postseason. And so, but we had to slay the dragon because they had our number to that point. All the games were close, but we beat them at that point in time, and I think we're 7-1 against them in the last 8 games. So I mean, and you know, they have a lot of talent, but like I said, I always tell our kids we're gonna move different, you know, than they move, and we're not losing them. And so that rivalry that I kind of created, I'll miss that. You know, I'll miss that a lot.
So as a commentator, having seen the way that the Shoemaker culture has developed, I want to just congratulate y'all first and foremost on your ball management for the time. Y'all are the best team I've ever seen within this district, within the area. You are hyper aware of the play clock and the game clock. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's like, putting forth that to your coaching staff and making sure that the players are really aware of that? Because again, y'all have been outstanding at that.
So we practiced it a lot. What's messed up is I'm a bad call against Harker Heights on the fake field goal, but that looked like it was going to work. But I almost got delay of game down there. Mm-hmm. We only had one delay of game penalty this past year, but we really rep a lot of things, and we practice a lot of situations, and so they're prepared in every aspect of the game. And so also there's coaches in the box that are talking to me because I call the offensive plays. That is one thing that'll change as far as the offensive play calling will change. If they stay in-house, you know, probably Coach White or Coach Daniels will take over. Both those guys have been with me for – Coach Daniels played college football with me at SFA, but he's been with me all 9 years. Coach White's been with me for 8 years. So they'll be able to roll right into something that looks similar. But as far as clock management, I do take a lot of pride in that, and that's something that being a 25-year veteran coach, and of those 25 years, I probably call plays 20 years, you get it over time. And you make mistakes. I mean, if you would have seen me 10 years ago, you'd be like, you wouldn't be making that statement. But we have done a good job the last, half decade or so of managing the clock, knowing the situation, knowing what we're going to do next. But my mind kind of does work a couple plays in advance. So there'll be times in the game where I'm like, hey, we're going for 2 in this situation, or hey, we need to set up like against Temple, walk-off field goal. Brandon Brown didn't get out of bounds on a second down play, and I chose to let the clock run all the way down, call a timeout, kick a field goal on 3rd down, because I didn't want to take a chance on ending regulation in a bad situation. I trusted our kicker, and I told our coaches we're going to kick the field goal. And so they kind of looked at me like, I don't know about that, but it worked out, So you have to know going in, when I have that call sheet, I'm looking at it, and it gives different situations. This is what we'll do. And, I feel like we've made a lot of right calls in those tough situations.
Back to your Ellison point, if you've been to, me and Brandon have been both to the games. Back in the day, my mom used to tell me the Killeen-Ellison games, used to be the real game. And these past couple of seasons, the Ellison versus Shoemaker games have been the most packed game in Killeen. So just to piggyback off that, how does that make you feel like the city was out watching that game? And it was a pretty up and down game. Started really hot and then had a back and forth second half.
Yeah, so let me mention that on the crowd. So when I got here again, Shoemaker was on a double-digit losing streak. And so our first game was a Saturday against a team from Mexico. Now, I didn't set this schedule. It was inherited. But it was a home game. It was decent crowd. When I say decent, very, very. People wanted to see what the new coach was going to do. Well, we lost that game. The next game was in Round Rock against Cedar Ridge, okay? Mm-hmm. And at kickoff, right before we kicked off, our band wasn't there, cheer wasn't there, the principals weren't there, drill team. I had a coach leave the press box. I asked him, I said, leave out of the press box. It was Coach Cobb. I said, I want you to count how many people there are in the stands. It was 26 when we kicked off. I said, I want you to shake all their hands, and I want you to tell them, Coach Foreman said, thank you for coming out. Keep coming to the games, and it's going to get better. And fast forward 3 years later, during COVID year, we sold out every home game. Now, it was at half capacity. We sold out every home game. And there's been sellout games throughout my time there against Harker Heights, against Ellison, 1 year against Killeen. And so that all means something to me. But if you want to talk about the rivalry, you can say that we talk year-round about beating Ellison, but we really don't anymore. We just – there's years that they think they can beat us, and so they want to come out and see. And there's a lot of Ellison alumni that, they want to see that game specifically because it's been one-sided for the last 7 or 8 years. This year in the game, I let the foot off the gas because I was trying to. Now we fumbled 2 times in a row, which allowed them to get back in the game. But going to the fourth quarter, we had like a 3-touchdown lead. I felt good about it. Keep in mind, my schedule this past year, we had 10 straight games and a scrimmage. So 11 straight weeks, I knew we were going to have to play people. So with a 3-touchdown lead going in the fourth quarter, it's not that we put a lot of backups in, but we ran the ball to try to run the clock out so I could get out of there with minimal injuries. And so was that a mistake? Almost, but it worked out where we did enough down the stretch to where we could win the game. But looking back, if I had to do it again, I would have managed the fourth quarter differently in that game and not put us in that situation, because I feel like if we would have kept spinning the ball, they couldn't cover us in 100 years. I mean, they just, their secondary was not able to contain Brandon Brown Jr., Jamal Polite, Wooten, AZ, McCoy, all those guys. And at that time, we were rolling in the passing game. But, you know, you live and you learn. We ended up winning the game, so it was a success. And I didn't get anybody hurt, and there was also a success. So that played in the – if we would have had a bye coming up, we would have been rolling all the way through that thing. But, yeah, the crowd has been good for those games. And in basketball, too, they want to see. You know, they want to see what's going to happen. Even in baseball and softball, we'll get a bigger crowd for that Ellison Shoemaker game.
As you begin at Jasper High School, what kind of culture and identity do you hope to build within the program?
Same one. We broke on family. We prayed and broke on family. We took our earrings out the other day, and so you know they were a little shocked by that. But same thing I did here. It just takes a little while to get it. I mean, here we started out. I inherited an 0-10 team. We went 0-10, then I went 2-8. I didn't know if I was going to get fired. You know, down there I will get fired if that happens. But they allowed me to have that third year. We went to the playoffs, and then we've been in the playoffs 6 out of the last 7 years. And so, you know, that's and this year was extremely rare. I mean, you don't go 7-3 and not make the postseason. We were involved in a weird tiebreaker, but this year, we never should have lost at Copper's Cove. I take responsibility for that, but regardless who was injured. But that was a game we had dominated Copper's Cove since 2018, and that was a tough loss. That's one of the toughest losses I've ever taken. That hurt my soul losing that game over there. But either way, the culture that developed into a winning culture, that took a little time. But consistency, making tough decisions, holding kids accountable, you're always going to win when you do that consistently.
What advice would you give the players you're leaving behind at Shoemaker as they continue the program's legacy?
You know, I've already given it to them is, you know, don't drop the ball. You know, continue to stick together. You know, let's make this thing better than what it was last year. You know, make it better than it was my 9 years, you know, but don't leave. Stick together. You know, they've worked hard. We've had a good off season, minimal injuries. Walker right now is just coming back we've held him out because of a little injury. But you can see with track, those kids are rolling right now, you know, and they need to keep rolling. They need to win another district title. We won 4 or 5 in a row in track, all levels. And, you know, get baseball, softball. Baseball's going through a little tough year, but softball should be a playoff team. You know, I'll be honest with you, I've not spent a lot of time with golf and tennis, but I know they've got some guys. And then spring ball starts on the 21st. As long as they stay in-house with the coaching staff, they'll be able to. They're going to go through spring ball, and then ride into summer workouts, and then you know go dominate in 5A. I'm leaving them with a good schedule. I'm leaving them with 5 Division I guys, and I'm leaving them We finally were getting away from Region 2 in 5A or 5A or 6A.
Yeah.
You know they should be winning playoff games now. You know we battled some really tough opponents in that first round, and it's a tough district. Don't get me wrong. You got Georgetown, you got Pflugerville Weiss, you got the College Station schools. But I mean, you know, it's winnable. It's not, you know, you're not having to play DeSoto and Duncanville and Lancaster in the first round anymore, and that's a big deal. I can't tell you how tough it was matching up with those people year in and year out. And but we won. You know, we never backed down. We got beat good a couple times, but we played and we competed, and that's what it's about. And that's why we've been able to have success in the other sports in the postseason. Last year, basketball, in my opinion, since I've been here, we beat Allen. They were the defending state champions when we had Jawan. We beat them over there in West Texas. And that was a huge win. We've beaten Duncanville in basketball. And last year, beating Lancaster, they were ranked in the top 25 in the nation. That was a huge win. Taking them to overtime this year, that was a huge accomplishment because they were loaded. That people don't understand how good, winning the area last year with Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, Lancaster, Waxahachie. We won the area by, 8 or 10 points. Runner-up in the region, runner-up at the 6A boys state track meet. We lost that by 300ths of a second. Stuff like that hadn't been happening around here since the 90s. And so, those are huge feats. But I expect them to carry that tradition on, and I'll be rooting for them from afar.
When you look ahead to this next chapter, what excites you the most about the journey, both as a coach, as a mentor, going back to very close to your hometown?
Last opportunity to turn the program around. Last one. This should be my last gig. I'm going to coach for 12 more years till my daughter graduates high school. She's class of 2038. I know there haven't been a lot of people in here talking about class of 2038, but I am. So, one more time I get to run it back, and I get to do it, near my hometown, and that's special to me because, I know a lot of people are already down there, and I know they're excited. And just like when I got here, just like when I got to Beaumont Central, because the programs were in such bad shape, people have been telling me what I can't do, and Jasper's not going to do this, Jasper's not going to do that. They may be right initially. I don't think they are, though. I think initially we're going to be better than what people think because even though there's hard times right now, help is on the way. And and when you have buy-in from your students, it doesn't matter what the handicaps are. You're able to overcome those. And I believe those student athletes down there, both on the girls and the boys side, will buy in because I've already told them I love them for the first time. My man LeBron right here knows that I love him, and he knows how I operate an athletic program. We still communicate, and he knows that I love him. And so I was put on this earth to work with young people, and I love doing that, and therefore I believe they give back. Last night, I went down there and asked the mile relay. I was like, man, this is my last Shoemaker anything. I said, y'all better not lose that. And we had a little arrangement where if they ran a 3:15, which I did not think was going to happen, they would be bought pluckers, and they will be bought pluckers before I leave. Me and Coach White told them we'll get them pluckers if they ran a 3:15, and they ran a 3:15, which was amazing with that group. The fact that Jihad could get out of those hurdles, he ran 38.6 yesterday or 38.4, PR by 2 seconds, and then jump back on the mile relay with Burrell, with Long, with Ford. Jay Ford is having an unbelievable year. Jay Ford went 2 minutes flat in the 800 yesterday, went 48 again in the 400, and then whatever his leg was on the mile relay was special. Jay Ford's a guy that I can't speak on in football because he's so much better in track, but I think he's going to have a good football year. But Jay Ford's one of them guys that can do some stupid great things for the rest of this season in track and in next season in track. And just stuff like that is special to me. Watching that, special to me. They made me feel special so much more yesterday because how it ended. And, I coached the 4x1 and 4x2, but I talked to the 4x4, and, we don't expect to lose. You had Chaparral was bumping and Harker Heights was expected because whoever won out of us in Harker Heights was going to win the track meet. But I knew with everything in my soul we were going to win that race. And that's what it's come to, and that's what's happened over time is you just know it doesn't matter what those other people do. They're not going to beat us in events like that.
What class of grade? Because I've told every time we talk about that sophomore class, I bring it up every podcast. How special has that class been throughout this season, and then just how talented they are?
Oh, very special. I mean, my daughter, my youngest daughter, she calls AZ and Tyler. She can't say Tyler Armstrong. She can't say she calls him Toddler, but she says AZ and Tyler are her brothers, and so. But that whole class has been special. I mean, you got Derek, you got Blackman, you got Wooten, AZ, all those guys are Higgs. They're all special. But each group is unique. That group's a little bit more unique just because I know some of those guys didn't have to come to Shoemaker and they chose to. And do I feel bad because I'm leaving? I was going to feel bad. There will always be a group, I feel bad because I'm leaving for all of them as far as I'm going to miss them. And I know some of them came there to play for me. But and I tell them this all the time, when you're being recruited in college, your coaching staff is never going to stay together. The head coach may be there the whole time, but look at Lane Kiffin. And I mean, people give him a bad time. How did he leave? Was that the right or wrong way to leave? I don't know. We don't know what happened internally there, how he told his team he was leaving. I know there was no chance that I was going to leave without telling my student athletes face to face, that I was leaving and why, and that I loved them one more time. And that's what I did, and that's what it should be. But the class of 2028 is special. They've got a little bit of everything. They got linemen, they got skill. They've got some, the 3 Division I guys already, Walker. I left him out. Walker's in that group. And again, some of those guys transferred in. Some of those guys are on a transfer, but they wanted to play for the Gray Wolves, and I know they wanted to play for me. They got 2 years of me, and I gave them 2 great years, but now they'll be able to stay together, hopefully, and finish out in the blue and silver the correct way.
I think we're going to leave it there. Any final thoughts before we go, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to all of our fans, all of the athletes that we've had in the time that I've been here, I just want to say thank you for making this such a special ride for me and my family, and thank you for all the great memories. I'll never take those for granted. Always treasure those. And this place, I said this on my exit, statement is what it was. This place will always have a piece of me. I always root for the blue and silver on the west side of Killeen. And I just want to say, everybody, I love you, thank you, and as always, go Gray Wolves.
As we wrap up today's special edition, one thing is clear. Coach Foreman's time with the Shoemaker Gray Wolves wasn't just about football. It was about relationships, it was about growth, and it was about leaving a place better than he found it. While the next chapter of his journey is still being written, the impact that he's made here will continue to echo in locker rooms, in classrooms, and in the lives of players that he has coached. Coach, thank you for your leadership, your passion, and your commitment to this community. We wish you nothing but success in what comes next. For everyone here at My 95.1 FM, thank you for listening. I'm Gio, and this has been a My 95.1 Special Edition podcast.